We all have those friends, those ones that are there, always there when they need something, but disappear as soon as you need something. Sound familiar? Well, I actually had a few of those friends, and here's what I know. Quotes, affirmations, and journaling are great tools to help us shift our mindsets. And in today's mindful moment, today's reflective storytelling meets TED Talk, whatever you want to call it, I'm sharing how journaling helped me to realize that I was pouring into cups and people and spaces that were not pouring back. So let's begin with our quote for the day. Stop calling on people who don't call you. Hmm. Now, I can't take credit for those wise words. They're actually coming from the amazing, the very wonderful Kibibia Janku, which is kind of, yeah, I guess she's got a lot of wise words because yesterday, our day 27's words or wise quote also came from Kibibia Janku. Either way, here are three things that I want you to remember. Number one, get off the wheel of insanity. Number two, be good to yourself. Because you know what? Number three, they won't be good. My name is Maya D, and I'm a storyteller by trade, and I do it most often through dance. But in more recent times, I've been doing it through writing, most of which comes from my journaling, because I found that journaling encourages self reflection and self awareness. As a child, my mother encouraged me to journal to process my thoughts and, well, yeah, she did encourage me to journal to process my thoughts. She did not phrase it that nicely, but the end result was the same. We had better communication between us because I had a chance to reflect and to process my emotions before we had an interaction, which meant that I got in less trouble because I had a time to think about my words and process my emotions. Um, so I want to get into a bit of sharing now. Feel free to go ahead and get cozy. So if you're watching this on the replay, this is where you can press pause and get whatever you need to be cozy. Otherwise, continue to do what you're doing and just listen to this in the background. Either way, I encourage you to ask questions. Sharing is caring is the intention of this. Through the sharing of my experiences, ideally, you're inspired to share with me, and through that exchange, we both grow into better people. So here we go. As we're transitioning into the reflection, I want you to remember that these reflections are pulled from my journal. So they're not elaborate works of art, but an intention to share insight on what journaling has illuminated in my lived experience. So I offer this reflection to those who are questioning who they should be pouring into and who should they be calling. Here we go. While orange is not my ideal color of a car, it was not my birthday and therefore not my choice. I made sure to leave my event early so that we could pick out their car for their birthday. When I look back, my early departure from my event doesn't sit well with my soul. I actually rushed away from a family member's funeral so that this person could have a car for their birthday. I jumped to answer the call that fulfilled this person's wishes, not yet realizing that I would not be able to make that same call of them. Reminder number one, get off the wheel of insanity. Better yet, I could make the call to this person, but it wouldn't be answered. They tended to be conveniently unavailable for anything I needed or wanted. As I journaled, I realized that they weren't the only one in my life that fit this description. For some reason, I'd gotten used to making calls because it felt like a responsibility, a duty of some sort that had been imprinted in my psyche as the right thing to do. I've been guilty of calling people on their birthdays and sending texts just to check in with them because that's how I wanted to be treated. But you can't make people treat you the way that you want to be treated. Mm. The calls and texts were not always reciprocated, but it's better to give than to receive, right? Hmm. Then it really hit. Or should I say, the pages of my journal made it clear that my intentions were askew. I wasn't being a good person to myself. In an effort to be a good person, I was rushing in doing for people who didn't have the time to do for me. I wasn't being good to me. Reminder number two, be good to yourself. You can only pour so much from a cup before it is empty. More times than I would like to admit, I found myself depleted of my resources because I'd given several sources and they had failed to give back. The ultimate smack to my face was when I realized how conditional their love was and that this kindness was conditional. As these sources began to treat me like they disliked me because I no longer had what they desired. I was now the broke one, as if they conveniently forgot that I was in my current situation because I'd financed the things that they were doing or wanted to do. I knew that something was broken inside of me. In me, there was this broken sense of value um, related to what I have to offer and what I needed in relationships. I put myself on a budget that included both finance and emotions. And I decided that if it cost me my peace, then the price is too high. Reminder number three, they'll be good. Creating a wellness budget was easy in the planning and a lot more difficult in the actual execution of the thing, but well worth it in the long run. They say you can't be logical and emotional at the same time. So I used a logical method that I could pull from when I got into my emotional spaces. After all, it was my emotional mind that got me into this cycle of insanity. The first thing I did was take a look at my call log in text messages. I assessed the log to see how I was reaching out to people, who I was reaching out to, and who was actually reaching back. I erased a few threads and I erased a few contacts. This was by far one of the most challenging spaces for me, one of the most challenging things because for whatever reason, it felt like that call log, that thread is was something that tethered me to those people. So it was hard severing that thread. But on the other side, there's more storage and space in my phone. And I view that space on my phone as also my emotional and social space, right? There's space for me to create new experiences and possibly meet new people if I want to. My circle of people got smaller. During hard times, I reminded myself that it was unrealistic to believe that my happiness could depend on people outside of me. I reminded myself that the job of making myself happy was mine alone. So the only logical thing was for me to protect, defend, and go after my own personal happiness. What's the point of being tethered to someone that ain't tethered to you? We done with that. No more. I was going for quality over quantity, quality relationships rather than a whole lot of relationships. We're no longer crossing rivers that for people, let me try that again. We are no longer crossing rivers for people who will not even step over a puddle for us. That is both insane and tiresome. So, in the words of the wonderful, the amazing, the very wise Kibibi Ajanku, stop calling on people who don't call you. And remember to get off the wheel of insanity. Be good to yourself because they'll be good. Quotes, affirmations, and journaling have been tools for helping me to shift my mindset. And I've included links to some affirmations and some guided journals, in the details below. So feel free to check them out. And as a bonus, here's a question for you. How do you decide when a relationship is good or bad? What are your non negotiables in your relationships? Feel free to let us know in the comments below if you feel like sharing, or otherwise, you can just drop a book emoji so that I know that you were here with me at a young age. And I hope that you enjoyed this story time. At a young age, my mother introduced me to this therapeutic tool of journaling. And because of that, I've made it through some really challenging times. Reading my entries, going back to them a month, a week, a day, several years later, have provided me a lot of clarity about myself and helped to guide some of my decisions in these current days. I believe that sharing my stories will help someone find the answers they need to a question I was looking for, or maybe just reassurance that they're not the only one. So I committed to sharing. I committed to sharing 30 days. This is day 28. Of my sharing, because about 4 years ago, I began collecting these quotes and writing them in my journals with the affirmations. And I began to notice that there was this alignment in the experiences that the affirmations were about, right? So there was this like, I'm writing this thing down and oh, I remember this time where I actually did that. So it's inside of me, and that means that I have the ability to recall it. And because I noticed that thing, I began sharing it as a blog. And I know that some of us are really great about, or not really great. It's not like a good or a bad thing. I know that some of us are more inclined to read while others of us are more inclined to listen. So while the blog is a great thing, I also push myself to do these lives because some of us are more inclined to listen. We get the information better. We are absorb it better when we hear that thing. So yeah, so I encourage myself to come on and do these lives. And I said I encourage myself and pushing myself out of my comfort zone because I'm very much an introvert. Even as a dancer, I am very much an introvert. I can come out and ta-da! And then I gotta go back in and like be quiet, like no sound. So pushing myself to share these portions of me because I do think it's beneficial. I do see the benefit of journaling. And I hope that this has been beneficial to you. If you like this video or found it interesting in any other kind of way, please like and subscribe. Um, and I'll see you again on our next video. Take care.